make a commitment now on video and spur of the moment, or should we hold on to that?
Okay.
Well, we did finally attend the writing group that we said that we were going to be attending. Yes. And it was an interesting time. We were the only people other than the hosts. It was not at the library. Apparently the library has now changed some things, so it was at the home of the host, and we were the only other people there. So it was not a normal meeting where they have the typical kind of agenda that they talked about having, but it was interesting for us in this very, very early stage of our journey to just have a free-flowing conversation with the people who were there and people who have already published some works. And we're talking about some of the things that we discovered that were encouraging as a result of that conversation. What did you notice in that conversation?
One of the things that stuck out to me was this author had published 2 kind of young adult novels that are not quite in the same vein of what we're trying to do, but kind of close. And one of the things that he mentioned is that there were times I think the first one of those he started working on and then went through a phase where he set it aside for a while and wasn't planning on finishing it really. And then later on, years later, ended up picking it back up and finishing it, which is kind of similar to what we're doing with the book that we're writing now. I started writing it a while ago, set it aside, never thought I would finish it. But another encouraging thing was, in that book, he said that there were times where he didn't really know how to get the plot from where it was to where he wanted it to be. And that's kind of the problem we're dealing with right now is we have these bones of the plot. How do we connect them together?
Hey, that's my metaphor.
Sorry. But seeing that somebody else, other people have gone through that, and somebody who is now a published author and took the time to figure out how to get the plot, and that it's not just something that people who don't know what they're doing, or not just a thing that novices. You said something else on the way home.
It's not a sign of incompetence.
That's what it was. Yes. Right. It's not a sign of incompetence that you can't figure out where your plot is supposed to go. Sometimes it just takes time.
Right. One of the other things that I found intriguing was the fact we're talking, one of the lady who was there described something that she had heard of how J.K. Rowling, her process for getting some of the Harry Potter books out there was that, I haven't looked this up, haven't fact-checked this, but that she worked at a coffee shop, apparently. That's what we heard. And she would just pick up notes and write down a little snippet of the story and stick it in her pocket or pocketbook and carry it home, and then figure out how all the pieces worked together. And we were talking about how often I used to come up with all sorts of these ideas that would go into the story, and that hasn't happened in a while. And you made a comment that sometimes it comes in spurts.
Right. From what I've seen, and this, I think I've seen it more in the phase of when you're actually writing the book and not just plotting it out, but it probably is the same idea in both cases, where you get times where you're writing and you've got all sorts of great ideas, and then you've got times you hit that writer's block and you don't know how to write what comes next, or you don't know how to get the plot where you want it to go.
And you also mentioned that during that phase, the solution is you just commit to write something. And I think we may need to just decide that even though we haven't felt like we've come up with really brilliant snippets to put on a sticky note, that we may just need to commit to say, I'm going to write something for a sticky note that may or may not go into the book. It may or may not fly. We may look at it, hand it to each other and go, I don't know about that. But to make a commitment to write something, we still need to decide what that interval is going to be. Is this something where we commit to doing something every day, every week? we'll have to talk about that. We're not ready to commit to that on video, especially right now. But those are the things that came up to us. Anything last minute that you can remember that you want to add before we close?
Not that I can think of. I think kind of along what you were saying about the notes, it might be a good idea to do something like a certain number a week. That gives you allowance for some days where you have really good ideas,
Okay.
other days where you don't, and over the course of a week get a certain number in. I don't know. Just a thought.
Would you want to try to make a commitment now on video and spur of the moment, or should we hold on to that?
Okay. I don't know. My gut instinct is 5 a week. I don't know why.
That was exactly the same number I had in my head. Maybe because there are 5 weekdays. That gives us 1 each weekday on average.
Yeah.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks. 5 ideas of some sort, sticky note sized ideas for the plot per week from each of us, right?
So that would mean that next week when you're watching the video, we should have 10 sticky note ideas. And I don't know if we want to... that might make next week a spoiler episode.
Next week's would be a
If
spoiler
we
alert
want to-
episode anyway.
Yeah, if we're getting going that pattern that we talked about, yes.
Yeah, every 4 episodes would be a spoiler.
Yep.
Wow, I think we just committed to it. I was not expecting that.
You want to stick with it?
Let's stick with it.
Alrighty.
Hey, we said it. We don't edit. So
Yep.
there it goes. All right, you heard it here first, folks. We'll see you next week with sticky notes, unless you're watching the non-spoilers. Then we'll see you 2 weeks.
Alrighty.